My name is Liam Costello, as he said. I'm a certification engineer with BRE Global Ireland. I'm going to talk to you today about the ETAs in particular. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. It'll be short. Sorry. Right, so BRE Global Ireland. Just very briefly, a definition of the ETAs. So it's a European Technical Assessment. ETA, this is ETA, these are acronyms that you'll hear bandied around a lot by organizations such as ourselves. Provides an independent Europe-wide procedure for assessing the essential performance characteristics of non-standard construction products. Key term is non-standard. So BRE Global Ireland, who are we basically? BREGI, as we are known, are an accredited notified body. For the purpose of this talk here, I've focused on basically our work as a technical assessment body. Our core activity is to issue CE certification for products. There are two routes by which a product can be certified. Testing against an existing harmonized European standard or testing against a European assessment document. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today will have been covered by other speakers. Today, you'll see like these are, as the leaders terms there, you'll hear a lot, technical assessment body, HEN, EADs, and so on. So my apologies if some of this, if I'm repeating some, but so two routes to CE marking. We've already, other speakers have discussed the HENs, which are the most common. And then the other route then is through what's called an EAD. So why are the two routes? We're seeing new products being introduced all the time. In cases where a new product cannot be assessed against existing HEN, a new route has been developed by the European Commission to support innovation and provide a route to market and CE marking for those manufacturers. This is the European assessment document. So two things there. To develop by the EEC to support innovation, because the CE mark is so widely recognized now. If manufacturers cannot get a CE mark, then they're excluded from the market. Another thing now as well, which you touched on previously this morning, is sustainability. There's a huge focus now on sustainability and recycling products. And we are seeing, I'll give examples, a good example of this later on. We are seeing, another tab such as ourselves, are seeing lots of evidence of this. People come forward, have got an idea for such and such a product. Can I get a CE mark, or what do we have to do, et cetera, et cetera. So organizations like ourselves can guide a client through this. And this is why tabs have been given the authority or the accreditation to operate like this. I'll just talk a little bit more about that afterwards as well. So again, we're covering something that we talked about earlier on. ETA request by a manufacturer. Is it a standard product? Is there an EAD in place for it? If there is, so you test against it. If there is no EAD for it, then you would develop an EAD, and that's something I will talk about later on this morning. Or sorry, not just this presentation. So there again, Sean just talked about that, just speaker before me there. So what is an EAD? Here's an example. This EAD number, tiles made without cement. Right. So here's the front page of the document. This is the number when it was published. Tiles made with cement, produced by ETA, or cited is the proper word. All these documents, EADs and ETAs, they're all on the ETA website. This is all publicly available. Everything that the EU do is on the official journal of the European Union. Within that, then there's an organization called ETA, which I'll just talk about a little bit more in detail. They are the ones who are responsible for EADs and ETAs and governing it. So that's the front page of this document. I'm not going to go to the whole thing because there's a huge amount in it. But basically, what I will draw your attention to is description of the product. So its intended uses, work-life durability, essential characteristics, relevant assessment methods and criteria. And then how are you going to decide if this project meets the criteria? And something that we talked on earlier on is these these conditions which must meet in fire are in use. So, for example, a big one will be reaction to fire, its stability, its density, configuration, bond strength, water absorption in case of tiles, for example. And then another one which you'll be familiar with, slipperiness. So any tile which is made is going to be intended as a floor tile will have to have a slip rating on it. So these tiles, no different. They're made a different method, but their intended use is going to be the same. So you'd have to test them for the same characteristics to determine how they perform. So that's just an extract again from it. So these tiles, description of the product, these tiles are formed by vibratory compaction and semi-dry mix. The units are placed in a temperature controlled chamber and dosed with a nutrient solution to promote calcium carbonate formation with the aggregate mixture over a period of time. So normally you would have cement would be the binder. This particular product now, there's no cement in it. It's using this procedure, and this has been developed by this particular client. They went through the process of developing the EAD of this with a tab in Denmark, and they were very successful. They've also, oh, sorry. Right. They've also, I just mentioned there, the tiles are not covered, fully covered by a harmonized European standard. That's the original one for tiles. These standards do not cover tiles made from aggregate blends and microorganisms. So there's there are standards out there for tiles, but in order to get your CE mark for tiles, you must comply with the characteristics of EN 5285. This manufacturer cannot meet those characteristics because there's no cement in it. But they are also, they have subjected the product there for the full range of testing that would meet the characteristics regarding slipperiness, water absorption, and so on. And that EAD is published on the European Journal there now as well. So other manufacturers now who have a similar product, if they want to develop this, they can test their product against that EAD. EAD is essentially the same as a HEN. It's it is fully accepted across the European Union, and ETA is essentially a test schedule. That's what it is. So, okay, I want to test my product against that EAD, and a tab like ourselves, technical assessment body, will say, right, well, here's the ETA, which you must comply with, and we will guide you through that, what you need to do, the various steps. I'll go through those in a little while. So the core of the process is the European technical assessment. I'm going to show you just a brief example now, an extract from an ETA, which we have recently published. This one is for this EAD number, which has to do with structural concrete. So this is an extract. I've just blotted out, obviously, these are the names of the client, etc. But you can see from ourselves, published to ETA, European Technical Assessment, the number, when the date was, technical assessment body, etc. And then the trade name of the product is on there. The product family, PAC, which is product area code, which is something that's been said earlier on. There are 36 codes, this being one of them. This one relates to structural concrete. The manufacturer, where they are, and the plant, etc. There's 53 pages in this. I won't go through the whole lot, but just to show you an extract of it. So the ETA describes everything about that product, absolutely everything about it, what's gone into it, the way it's made, and the testing that will be required to certify it. So that's only a small extract of it there. Another document that's produced in combination with the ETA is what's called the evaluation report. Again, from ourselves, BRE, to ETA. The evaluation report is a summary of the testing gone in there. So the products were tested by certified labs, independent labs, witnessed by ourselves, and this now is a summary of everything that's gone in there. There's 30 pages in, I won't go through it all. That's just a very, very brief summary of it there. So it's probably a bit hard to read, but in the case of this one being there for structural concrete, so there's where resistance of the ducts at 2 different temperatures, bond behavior of the duct, and so on. And like this is the combination of 2 years work. Now, the reason I'm saying this one is picking this one. This was done for a company in the Far East who are not operating in the European Union, don't need a CE mark to do their work, but the CE mark and European standards are so widely recognized as benchmarks now that this company have voluntarily applied and successfully achieved an EAD to give them the commercial leverage in their own area. They're compliant with all the regs in their own country, but they're also saying to customers, clients, that we can meet all our national regs in our own country, but we've also gone above and beyond, and we're meeting the high standards that the Europeans have in place. So, and we're seeing this not only from that, we're seeing many, many instances of this. So the procedures for developing an EAD and subsequent compilation of the ETA, the ER are well established. This is the core work that a technical assessment body like BRE is involved in, BRE Global Ireland. A significant part of the process is the liaison with the European Technical Organization for Technical Assessment. I'll go through that now in a little minute. But I just want to talk a little bit about this here. As you've seen this morning, there's a massive amount of information that we must be aware of, and regulations, etc., absolutely vast. It's all, but on the good side of it is that there is lots of information available. There are lots of people who have vast experience, BRE Global Ireland, NSI as well, where you can go and get answers to questions about this. Another thing as well then would be why I use that example of that company in the Far East about as an example of the ETA, is that we've seen there some economic operators will try and maybe shirk the responsibilities or get around things, etc. That will always have that, but there's others, and many, many others, and the vast majority see the benefits of delivering quality and having meeting their obligations, and see the economic advantages of it, and are only too happy to engage fully with organizations like ourselves and go do everything by the book, because they see it's going to be a route to success for their business. So as I said, like, there's a huge amount of information and support there from organizations like BRE Global Ireland and NSAI to answer any question how. And that's part of the reason why I'm here this morning, just to demystify some of the things. There's loads of things you hear, like EAD, ETA, and so on, so on, so on, but it's all very well understood. So something else we discussed earlier on about the 7 basic work requirements. I won't go over them again in too much detail. I have to say that when a new product comes along, is offered for testing, certification. So these are what it must satisfy. Some of them will be critical, others you will not require a declaration against them or any performance. This is another thing you will hear. Part of the EAD development process is the work program. So we apply to EOTA. We want to publish an EAD for such and such a product, and EOTA say, this is only an extract of it. I've left it off because there's some commercially sensitive information in it. But essentially, this is an iterative document between ourselves, the RTAB, responsible technical assessment body. Another thing you'll hear a lot, RTAB. So we say what the product is, what its intended use is, what its expected life span is going to be, and this is DIBT. This is a large tab similar to ourselves in Germany. They come back and say, right, how are you going to meet the criteria, the 7 basic work requirements? They're all centered around that. So they've said there, in regards like structural integrity there, it's not clear the panels are load-bearing effect. We come back and say, here's our answer. They say, what does this mean? It wasn't clear on the drawings because the drawings were printed very, very small. They didn't say. They say, right, we clarified that. Is aluminium used? No, it's not. Welding, heat, etc. And we come back. So after all these questions have been answered, we arrive then, when the work program was completed, then we arrive at the basis of the ETA. So we know like what we're going to have to do to satisfy all the criteria. Some of them won't be required. Some of them, the ones that are, as a result of this discussion document with IOTA, that forms the basis of the ETA. So go now to the manufacturer and say, right, you need to test for these criteria. And the testing is done again by an accredited, duly accredited laboratory, which we don't have control over. We subcontract this out to somebody. And the reason being for that is that part of our remit as a technical assessment body is to demonstrate impartiality. So we have full traceability of what we did, who we subcontracted out. The labs, for example, will test there to pre-arranged standards, usually sort of EN numbers. They will be able to demonstrate the competency of the staff who did it, the calibration of all the equipment, which we talked about earlier on. So it's all very, very traceable and very important in the case of, say, AVCP systems, system 1+, which is the most safety critical. If something ever went wrong, there will be an investigation as to who signed this off and why, et cetera, et cetera. So in order to build in the protection against something going wrong, these procedures are very, very well policed. We as an organization, a TAB, are accredited, or we are audited every year by INAB, the Irish National Accreditation Board, who audit us very, very thoroughly. At some stage as well, we get audited by the EC, the European Commission. They go through everything. They pick up a project, what you do in the last year, to pick one, right? Show me everything about this, who did it, where's their competency record, what's their qualifications, et cetera, et cetera. CE marking then, before it's issued then as well, is compiled by the project engineer, and it is verified by another person, either at the same level or senior level, as a double check then as well, to make sure everything was done. So I'll touch very, very briefly on this. We has been discussed already. So factory production control then, once a certification is issued, then in order for the FVC or the ETA to be issued in the first place, there's factory production control, where assessment services in our case go to the premises and inspect everything that's happening there, as Sean has alluded to earlier on. Just in particular there, so sorry, there's two parts. So there's tasks for the manufacturer. So develop a quality plan for everything going in there. In the case of the criteria, the particular criteria, reaction to fire, density, waterization, et cetera, et cetera. This is in relation to the tiles made without cement. And then the minimum number of samples, they'll have to document all this, and the frequency of control, they'll have to have all this available for inspection. The task of the notified body then, where as a TAB, a technical assessment body, we don't do factory production control. That's subcontracted to another agency, as I said, assessment services, and depending on the level of safety factor required, it might be every 6 months or every 12 months, but that is done by the notified body who maintain the cert. The cert is issued initially, and then the maintenance of the cert then passes over to a notified body. Technical assessment body are really, let's say, specialists in the area of developing an EAD in the first place, who have the technical competence to understand how to do it, what's required, and to advise the client and bring them on the journey. I won't go overdo this too much. We've been over this twice already, but again, just to say that from your own point of view as regards like market surveillance, there's a huge amount of work goes into testing and checking products before they get to market. There is an awful lot there. And if, for example, in the case of, let's go back here now. So the notified body will go in there and do their auditing once a year, twice a year. Now, if in the course of those assessments, the difference between an FPC audit and an ISO 9001 audit is FPC is focused on, is product specific. We're not looking at the general thing. We're looking at one product in there. It's this particular one, which is on the cert, how it's made, the sourcing of the material, who's doing it, etc. And it is a rigorous audit. And if there is any issues there raised as non-conformances, they might be minor, it might be major. If these are not closed out, then the suspension can be invoked of that certificate, and ultimately the certificate can be withdrawn. We, as a notified body, then, well, we are so as a notified body, we can instigate this process, or where we notified them that you've got a non-conformance there, according to the auditor, you've got 30 days to close it out. If it's closed out, fine, the certification continues. If not, then we have to escalate it down with the threat that the certificate will be withdrawn. And if it's not dealt with, then the certificate would be withdrawn, and the European Commission would be notified of it. And likewise, the relevant government departments in this country. So I'll just go over this very, very briefly. Product area codes. We are designated by the department here in conjunction with the European Commission. That's ourselves. And there are the product areas where we are assigned, designated to act as a tab under. There's 26 there. There's 10 more which we don't have accreditation for. So if a tab approaches us, or a client approaches us as they want a certification, the first thing we'll do is see, is that product covered under our accreditation? If it's not, there's nothing more we can do. We might have the expertise, etc., and think we know, but we cannot do anything with it because we couldn't prove that we have the competency in there. We have to have these two. In order to have these within our scope, we must demonstrate to INAB, who give us the accreditation, that we have the proper competency, we have the documentation and the structures in place to deal with this. So that rules it out. Now, something about EADs in general. The EADs are a route then has been offered, as I said earlier, for innovative products then throughout Europe, but also like there you can see from this map now they're used around the world. There's been 307 published by the official journal. There's 583 which are adopted, and these, I said, a pending citation. The reason why they're not published as yet is because these manufacturers hold these ones which are not published, have the intellectual property invested in it. So they want to be the first one to get an ETA against it. So once that ETA is published, then the EAD is published on the European journal. There so far has been 10,000 ETAs issued. The reason why there's ETAs, one of the main reasons is because in some areas of work, fixings, for example, which Sean mentioned earlier, there's a vast number of them. We would know this. So one standard could not possibly cover every one of them. And there's lots and lots of new innovations coming out all the time. The tiles without cement being just one of them. ETA is requested by manufacturers in 73 countries around the world, so that's way beyond Europe. Just as an example, Australia, they don't have national standards, national regulation for fixings. Instead, they just use the ETAs. And New Zealand follows suit the same way as we did, follow suit with the British standards for such a long, long time because they're very, very good. There's no need to go into the expense and delay of developing their own standards. They look at the European standards there, so these are very, very good. We'll just go with those. And likewise, many, many other countries around the world, we're seeing now, at the moment we are dealing with inquiries from companies in the Middle East who are in compliance with their own national regs in their countries, but want to get CE marking, have no intention of sort of importing into the European Union at this stage, but they may down the road, but they see the commercial advantage they will have of being compliant with European standards. So that's it. Thank you very much.